Alright, so I'm just going to be talking about the flood story in the book of Genesis. I'm just going to wait here for a second, see if anyone starts watching, then I'll discuss what I'm going to discuss. Okay, so we've got two people watching, so I guess I'll get started. I'm going to explain why does the book of Genesis say that one God started the flood and another God saved man from the flood. And it's actually the same God, according to the book of Genesis. Yet, when you look at the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Epic of Atrahasis, one God starts a flood, the other one saves man from the flood, and they're different gods. That's because the Jews got their information from somewhere else that said the same God did it. But it wasn't the Gilgamesh story or the Atrahasis story that said they were the same. It was the Egyptian story. As I was talking about in my previous videos that I did with Alex about I have the links and also the Facebook versions of the video down there earlier in my post. You can just scroll down on Facebook and go see it for yourself. And I'm bringing up the Atum, that's the Egyptian god that starts the flood. But he's also called Atum Ra. Now that's pretty important because if you actually look up the depictions of Atum Ra, he gets all the gods aboard a boat. Okay? See, the same God that brings the gods on the boat and starts the flood, he raises the waters anew. That's what the hieroglyphs say. He raises the waters anew. That's the water in the Egyptian. It floods the whole damn earth. It's the same God. Yet, the Gilgamesh story and the Atrahasis story, like I said earlier, doesn't agree with that. At least, it doesn't appear to agree with that. The reason why I said the word appear is because there's actually a longer story to that I'm going to do in a future series and maybe on a future episode with an atheist reads the Bible, but I don't know. Haven't really decided on where I'm going to put that yet. Probably on the series, most likely. Let's see. I'm gonna try to bring someone on. See if anyone wants to come on. We can just talk or whatever. You just let me know. Just gonna randomly add somebody in here until someone hits accept. In the meantime, I'll just keep talking. So if you look up Atum, you'll see the similarities between his story and the Genesis story. And you'll see that's the reason why the book of Genesis states it's the same God doing it. Now, let me see here. Can't bring. Okay. Wow. Now, let's talk about the Hymn of the Aten. I don't know if anyone of you have ever heard of that. It's basically the narrative of the Hymn of the Aten. And Aten is presented as the creator of everything. He also rules over a land of people divided by different languages. Now think about that for a second. You see in the book of Genesis, the God that confuses the tongues of man, the God that saves man from the flood, and the God that creates everything, and the God that starts the flood is presented as the same God. Well, the Egyptians said the same thing. And later this God turned into the Egyptian god Aten, the god of Pharaoh Akhenaten, whom declared him to be the one true God and all other Egyptian gods are false. That's Pharaoh Akhenaten in the 14th century BC. He said that. Sigmund Freud, in his book Moses and Monotheism, as I mentioned in my in the series of an atheist reads the Bible series, I was bringing that up. He says that Adam and Aten are the same. And etymologically, they are the same. They very much are. So is the Greek god Ares. That's why Cain that is not Cain. That's why Abel, I meant to say Abel, sacrifices a lamb to God, because God is a lamb god. Ares is a lamb god. The age of Ares is named after the Ares, the god of war. That's why there's that constellation of the ram that you can look up. And that's why the rams or the lamb is so prevalent throughout the entire Bible, even in the New Testament. Jesus is the Lamb of God. He takes over the place of the lamb that gets killed by Abel or the lamb that was sacrificed by Abraham. And instead, he is the one that gets sacrificed. But overall, you can see the repeating pattern here. The lamb is continuously present throughout the story. And even Ares has a son called Enelios, which the Greeks and the Romans say he's another name for Ares. But how can he be another name for Ares if he's his son? You see, that's the kind of contradiction you can go check out in John chapter 10, verse 30, and John chapter 3, verse 16. Jesus is the Son of God, yet he is also that he and the Father are one, as he was saying in John chapter 10, verse 30. How is that? How is that possible? How can he be both the Father and the Son simultaneously? It makes no sense. But you see, it's because you see what's going on in the Greeks and the Romans. They had the same kind of dilemma with Enelius. Not a coincidence at all. And but yeah, I'm gonna cover all this even more detail, and I'll talk more about the Genesis story in the next video I'm planning on doing. I still gotta do that video about Allah not being a moon god, that Allah is a moon god debunked kind of thing. For those of you that have no idea what that means, is basically I'm debunking a Christian conspiracy theory that Allah is a moon god, because they're trying to disconnect the Islamic history from the Christian history, even though they're quite clearly connected. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it.